Well, the Lerner Theatre was built in 1924. The history of the organ is a bit interesting because, as I understand it, the organ was actually not built for this theater. That it was built for another theater that before it opened went bankrupt. And the story has it that Mr. Kimball himself came to Elkhart and transplanted the organ into the Lerner Theatre. There was a period of time when very severe damage occurred to the organ, especially from water coming into the building from roof drains. So we start building the organ on what's called a floor frame. And then we started assembling everything from the instrument in our shop in Columbus to the point of it being fully playable, where we actually even recorded parts of the instrument and were able to play all of it. At that point, when we were satisfied with it, we marked everything carefully for how it goes back together. So it's kind of like a big jigsaw puzzle. And we pack it carefully in the truck, bring it to the theater. And we took over the entire stage with all of the parts and then hoisted the parts up into the chamber. And lo and behold, they actually fit. The end of this project indicated that we had about 10,000 man-hours in the total project, spanning over the period of a year for the restoration and installation. As we think about a pipe organ, of course, the first thing is that you have the pipes which produce the sound, and many times people in their church have seen organ pipes. Sometimes they're in a facade where you just see a row of pipes that may or may not be functional, or you may not see any pipes and they're buried behind a grill or something like here at the theater. As I said before, there are about 1,200 pipes in this instrument. And basically, the pipe portion of the instrument between a theater organ and a church organ are the same. You have the basic pipe construction that produces the sound, which is either the sound of a flue pipe, that's F-L-U-E, is like blowing on a Coke bottle. That's where you have the tone produced that way. The other type of pipe is called a reed pipe, and there's actually a vibrating reed in the pipe. And through various techniques, we try to get these sounds to be as orchestral as possible. One of our staff was quoted in saying that a theater organ is different from a church organ in the fact that it's really kind of a church organ that has a sense of humor. And that's because of all the things that we call toys and percussions that most church organs don't have. So you have all these various things that help produce the sounds of what would happen in an orchestra to accompany a movie of any type, let alone a silent movie. So you have triangles, you have bird whistles, which are the one thing that's not produced naturally. Everything else is real. If you have a bass drum sound, it's a real bass drum. If you have a triangle, it's a real triangle. The bird, however, is a bird whistle, not a real bird. You have two different sound chambers, or chambers, one called the solo and the other called the main in this organ. The one on the left as you're facing the theater is the solo. That particular chamber has many of the sounds that are solo sounds. It has most of the percussions, it has most of the toys, and it has a number of different sets of pipes that are very distinct in their sound. One of the loudest stops is in that side, called the post horn, and it's a very trumpet-like sound that's quite sharp, and you know when it's on. But you also have other things like the tibia, which is the backbone of the theater organ. It's the sobbing flute that's used in the movies where you're looking at the heroine or something, and it's kind of a fun sound that's very rich and full. Compared to the main side, which is on the right, where there are more accompanimental sounds of the instrument. Now, volume-wise, it gets pretty close to the solo when everything is on, but it still tends more toward the accompanimental sounds, flutes and strings and so forth that will accompany those solo sounds of the other chamber. Now, most people believe that they see the organ is the console portion, when actually the organ is the pipes up in the chamber and those percussions and so forth. But for purposes of most people seeing the console, it's the most impressive part anyway. This has been an exciting project for us to do, and looking at the situation here for the people of Elkhart relative to this organ, you have done a magnificent thing in this theater, the restoration of it, preserving it for future generations, and in being able to maintain this organ for future generations. You should be so proud of what you've done.